The story of writing, the fourth great Montessori cultural lesson. Remember how we talked about the creation of the earth? And how the plants came, and the frog with its voice, the insects, the animals, and at last, when the earth was ready for them, the humans came. Then we had another story about the coming of humans, the story of the men, women, and children, just like you and me. We talked about the gifts they brought with them and what they did. Today's story is about something they did a very long time ago, after they had been living on Earth for a very, very long time. From the beginning, we think that humans must have spoken to one another. Using grunts and laughter, they would give different objects names so they knew what each other wanted. So they could warn people if there were dangerous animals, let people know where food was growing, and tell them about good places to shelter if they were traveling. They would want to tell others about exciting things they had seen during the day and comfort the children who were scared. But they could only tell the people they met these things, and, as we know, people have hearts to love those they haven't met. You can hear me now because we are close. If I wanted to speak to someone outside, I could open a window and shout loudly. But what if someone comes after we have gone home? Then they couldn't talk to me. In the past, people had the same problems. They wanted to leave messages to warn others and tell each other good news. At first, they probably used pebbles, arranging them in certain patterns to tell people things. Or they drew pictures with paint. They might have looked a bit like this. A long time ago, Sumerians began to make signs using a wedge-shaped tool called a stylus. They pushed the tool into soft clay and it made an impression. When it baked in the sun, it went hard. People used the signs they made to make books, and they had whole libraries filled with this special writing called cuneiform writing. It means wedge-shaped from the Latin cunis. Can you imagine how excited the people who found these libraries were? Another group of people who lived in Egypt painted beautiful signs on walls and carved them into stone. They discovered a plant called papyrus, a reed which grows along the river Nile that they could use to make paper and made brushes out of plants and ink from soot. To read it, you needed to know what all the signs meant. The signs are called hieroglyphics, which means holy carved writing. Because you had to know what all the signs meant, not everyone who saw it could read it. During the time of the ancient Egyptians, there was a group of people called the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians traveled all over the seas on boats, selling silver, jewelry, spices, silk, and Tyrian purple, a very special dye from a special shell used for making beautiful indigo clothes. They liked to trade things quickly to make lots of money, so they traveled all over the area, meeting new people who spoke different languages. They were very impressed by the writings of the Egyptians and thought it would be a useful way to write down all the things they bought and sold so they could find out how much money they had made. But the writing of the Egyptians took a long time to make, and not everyone could understand it. So they decided to make it simpler. They could see that the Egyptians made messages using some pictures and some signs, which told you how the word sounded. The Phoenicians decided that they would draw shapes to show the sounds made when you said the word. We think that they had around 22 signs which could make the sounds to describe all of the things they bought and sold. The signs look like everyday objects. Here we can see their first two signs. The first one looks like the head of an ox, and it makes the sound aleph. And the second looked like the plan of their house. It makes the sound bet. The ancient Greeks also liked this idea. They wanted to use it to write down things that they thought were important. And they soon forgot that the symbols were supposed to look like oxen and houses. They just knew what sounds they made, so the letters began to look different. The first two letters the Greeks used, the alpha and the beta, are the first two letters of the alphabeta, the Greek word for alphabet. The Greeks used the letters to write plays and record their ideas about life. The Romans came later and thought having an alphabet was going to be really useful. They could write down their plans for building roads and send messages throughout Europe to make sure that the soldiers and governors were working together. Because the Romans liked to carve words on their favorite buildings, they decided to make the letters even simpler. So you see, the signs used by the Phoenicians were used by many people and spread throughout the world. Eventually, they got passed down to us. You may have started to learn these letters in primary when you used the sandpaper letters, or in lower elementary when you used the movable alphabet. You then learned how to form the letters on your own using pencil and paper. Now you can read messages from people you have never met who live on the other side of the world, or people from the past. We can send messages to our friends when we are on vacation, or send them cards to wish them a happy birthday. Even though the creation of the alphabet happened a very, very long time ago, I used it today to tell this story to you.